Yo, what is going on, APUSH peeps? We have the final video in our 10-minute series. This is it. We have reached the end of the APUSH curriculum, so congratulate yourself on getting this far. And as I've said before, please remember, no matter what you get on this exam, you are always more than a test score. You are brilliant. You've challenged yourself. That you should be very proud of. All right, let's get going. So let's talk about the growth of conservatism. So the reasons for it, this to me is screaming for a short answer question. We have a decrease in the public trust in government, economic problems, stagflation, and oil embargoes from the 1970s. Stagflation, circle this bad boy right now. It is a politician's worst nightmare economically. It is high unemployment, high inflation, high interest rates, and a stagnant economy. And part of the reason why inflation was so bad in the 1970s was the oil embargo, which saw the gas prices soar in America. We had political scandals, things like Watergate, the Pentagon Papers, which revealed that the JFK and LBJ administrations had deceived America about the Vietnam War. And we also have foreign policy failures, things like the Iran hostage crisis in 1979. And there's this perceived social and moral decay. Conservatives argued that rising crime and juvenile delinquency was a major problem in the United States. And we also have the rise of evangelical churches, which are calling for religious morals to be in government. All right, so what were some successes of the conservative movement? Well, no question about it, they reduced taxes. We see this under Ronald Reagan, and here he is talking about Reaganomics, which are tax cuts for the wealthy in the hopes that it would spur the economy. And we also see it under George W. Bush in 2002. He institutes tax cuts, and we also see reduced regulation of industry. So the government kind of takes a step back and doesn't regulate industry as much, so we have less government involvement. Now, some failures of the conservative movement. Well, Reagan and a lot of conservatives denounced big government. In Ronald Reagan's inaugural address, he said, government is not the solution to your problem. Government is the problem. Now, the size of the government actually grew during his administration. If we look here are revenues in light blue, and in dark blue is government spending. So government spending is going to increase between 1979 and 1984. That is part of Reagan's first term. Now, moral ideas met opposition. Conservatives had hoped to make abortion illegal, and in Planned Parenthood versus Casey, the Supreme Court reinforced that the legality of abortion, but they did allow a 24-hour time period before a woman could have an abortion. All right, Reagan's presidency. In his first term, he rejected détente by increasing defense spending, and this is seen through Star Wars, or the Strategic Defense Initiative. This idea that the Soviet Union were to launch a nuclear weapon, the United States would have satellites in outer space that would blow it up with a laser. This is just an idea. This never comes to fruition, but it is an example of increasing military spending by the U.S. And he also used bellicose rhetoric. This is specifically mentioned, so I would be familiar with this term, bellicose rhetoric. It means aggressive language. He did things like called the Soviet Union an evil empire. And in his second term, you see improved relations with Mikhail Gorbachev. He goes back to détente, and he has a much better relationship with the Soviet Union. And you see that they begin to reduce weapons. The Soviet Union and the United States begin to reduce weapons, and we see that with START 1, which is similar to SALT under Nixon. So post-Cold War world, the U.S. engaged in military and peacekeeping interventions. We see this in Serbia in the late 90s, in which NATO led bombings of Slobodan Milosevic, who was committing genocide. And we also see it in the first Gulf War in 1991 in Iraq. Now, post 9/11, the U.S. engaged in lengthy conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. And we have the war on terrorism, which is a response to 9/11 as well. And the U.S. sought to eliminate terrorist threats. However, there are debates over protection of civil liberties at home. And this is a common theme throughout history. It's this delicate balance between preserving individual rights and liberties versus national security. So the U.S. economy post-1980, we see economic inequality increasing due to a loss of manufacturing jobs. We have outsourcing, especially to Asian countries and Mexico. And the middle class has seen their wages stagnated or stopped. There are free trade debates. So when we're talking about free trade, we mean no tariffs whatsoever. And NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Association, was created was signed in 1993, and some argue that it led to outsourcing, and others argue it led to lower costs for goods. Debates over government social safety nets include Social Security reform. Anytime there's a presidential debate, you're going to hear about Social Security because these baby boomers that we talked about in Period 8, they are now retiring and drawing from Social Security, and there are a lot of people that are drawing from Social Security. So there's a question of how long it can last. And there's debates over healthcare reform or Obamacare, which was passed under Obama's first administration. All right, environment and demographics post-1980. Middle East conflicts and climate change concerns has led to debates over U.S. dependency on oil and fossil fuels. So many people are arguing that the U.S. should find alternative forms of energy. Immigrants from 1965 forward have largely been from Asia and Latin America. Remember, the Immigration Act of 1965 eliminated those quotas from the 1920s. And these two groups, Asia and Latin America, traditionally have been underrepresented groups. There are debates over immigration, even till today. Things like the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 put more pressure on businesses to ensure that their employees were not illegal immigrants. And population gains in the South and West include the Sun Belt. Again, this is mentioned several times in the new curriculum. So these Asians and Latin American immigrants tend to settle in the South and the West. And the population is increasing in those areas, and they are gaining political power. And there are debates over gays and lesbians as well. Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was instituted under the Clinton administration, stated that gays could not serve openly in the military. They wouldn't be asked if they were gay, and they couldn't say if they were, otherwise they would be discharged. Obama overturned that with an executive order in 2011, and there he is signing it. All right, let's do a quick recap. Reasons for the growth of conservatism. Again, that to me is a great potential short answer question. Successes and failures of the conservative movement. You could tie that in there. Reagan's interactions with the Soviet Union. How did it change over time? War on terrorism, what was that a response to, and what are the impacts at home and abroad? The economy post-1980, what is that like? NAFTA and free trade, what does that mean and why are there debates about it? And immigrants and environmental debates as well. All right, short answer question. We're going to answer all three parts here. The 1980s saw a rise in conservatism. Part A, briefly explain one cause for the rise of conservatism. Part B, briefly explain one success of the conservative movement. And Part C, briefly explain one failure of the conservative movement. That is it, everybody. Congratulations. You are done with the entire AP curriculum. It is been a pleasure having you watch my videos this year. I cannot thank you enough. If you found the video helpful, please leave me a comment. I love reading about how my videos have been helpful. Thank you for all your support. Best of luck on the exam. You are brilliant. You will do great. Don't ever forget that. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, and I will do my best to get back to you. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Have a good day.